Project 1, the robotic car. Whoa. You're going to need some tools and materials. First, the Arduino Uno. A breadboard. At least 30 male-to-male wires. And 4 of these female-to-female. You will also need 4 wheels and 4 motors. If you can get them together, it helps out quite a bit. If you can, get one of these 9-volt battery cases and another 9-volt connector. And cardboard works well for the frame of your car. There. You're going to need a glue gun, a ruler, and box knife for cutting the shape of your cardboard car. If you feel up for it, you can always use a soldering iron and some solder to connect the wires, or just some electric tape. And last but not least, you'll need a computer to hook up your Arduino Uno. Yeah. I almost forgot. You'll need 2 of these little chips that say L293DNE. And you'll need an infrared sensor. Number 1, make a design and cut out a design for your car with a box knife. Make sure that your frame has room for a wheel. You don't want the frame to be hitting that wheel. In addition to that, don't forget you'll need to fit a breadboard, a battery, and the Arduino Uno all on the same frame. So, after you make the design of your car, you'll want to put the motors and tires on there. To do this, I drilled some holes in the frame of this and soldered some of these wires together. Alright, and then you can stick them through one of these holes. There we go. And then you'll still need to attach it to the actual frame. So I'm going to use a glue gun. Now, make sure that you don't make the tire touch the sides or anything, because if it does, your car will not move very well. And then make it really well put on there. So this is what a breadboard looks like up close. There's 2 things to remember here. 1, that these rows are connected to each other. There's a break, and then they're connected again. 2's connected, not connected, connected again. Now 1's and 2's are not connected to each other, so they can't make a circuit. Positives are connected, and negatives are connected to each other. Now with this, you'll be able to make a nice little circuit. So now let's get back to that L293DNE chip. You'll have to connect that so that one side is on one side of the breadboard and the other side is on the other side of the breadboard. This way, there's no cross circuits that make it not work. And after you do that, well, then we'll go back to the whiteboard. So now that we have that chip in the breadboard, let me explain what it does. It's meant for controlling 2 motors, making it go one direction and also switching it to go the other direction. So first, make sure you have some of these wires because they really help with the breadboard. If you don't have these, it's really hard to get some wires stuck into those breadboards. Number 1, you need to connect the ground to the negative side of, well, a battery or to the ground. So the ground is 4 and 5. Now once you have that finished, number 2, you'll want to, well, connect to the positive. So 8 and 1. Number 3, we need to connect the motors. So that's going to be 3 and 6. Now later on, we'll discover which ones will turn it one way and how to turn it the other way. But for now, just make sure you connect it to the right motor. The rest of these numbers are all connected to the Arduino Uno, and we'll cover that in just a moment. As you can see, there's numbers from 0 to 13, and this is how we're going to be able to control which direction these motors are going to go. So first, I'm going to attach the left engine to 8 and 9. Then, the front engines to 10 and 11. Nope, make sure you get it in the right slots. And the right engine to 12 and 13. Haha! Last but not least, I'm going to attach the positive side of this breadboard to the 5 volts coming from the Arduino Uno. In order to download the software for the Arduino, you should go to this site, www.arduino.cc, and then click on Software. When it gets to the page, it'll show you the web editor and the Arduino IDE. You want to download this Arduino IDE. It'll help you program for the Arduino. You'll have to sometimes click on this COM and make sure that it's the right COM. Sometimes it's COM2 or COM3. It just depends on your computer. And so once you click on that, and say you click on it, then all you have to do is click this little arrow, and it will download the program for you. The first thing about programming that we can talk about is that we can make, well, any of these numbers into whatever name we want to give them. So we hooked up, well, the front motors to the 12 and 13 slot on the Arduino. And so, to make sure we can remember which motors we hooked up, I changed the name to left motor 1 and left motor 2. Did the same with the right motors and the front motors. And these are all the, well, the different numbers on the Arduino where we hooked them up. Now, one thing, don't forget, you need to put a semicolon at the end of any of these little programming phrases. The second part of the program is the void setup. Now, just like we had the integers to, explain what names like left motor 1 mean, now we need to make sure that the pins, that the computer knows what to do with it. So, we want left motor 1 to be output. There's another pin that we want, A0, to be input. Output means it'll send electricity out. Input means it'll let you send electricity in. Now, we also want to make the serial begin 9600. And we have to put all these things in there, including these little, punctuation and parentheses and semicolons, and all that stuff has to be in there for this to work. This is the last part of the program, the void loop. This will loop around and around and around until, either you stop it or the battery runs out. And since we're making a robot, we'll need some kind of sensor. So we're going to use an infrared sensor and attach it to this A0 pin on the Arduino. Infrared sensor. To attach that, attach this yellow wire. It's connected to the output into A0. The orange wire to the ground. It says GND. And the red wire to the 3.3 volts. Now let's turn this on. Is this going to work? Is this going to work? The light's on. Let's see. Ready? Both lights came on. So right here is when this output will send a current going down into this A0 pin. Aha! So here's the whole program. We'll have the integers, which are just numbers that we've given names. You shouldn't really mess with this part. The void setup will tell what all these are for, and we want all those, the motors, to be output, and well, we need this A0 to be input. And you should also not really change that. That needs to stay the same. Now, when we get to the void loop, we need this analog read so we know what that sensor, that infrared sensor, is actually seeing. The repeat we need for, well, to know how many times this loop has gone through. Now the if, this is something that you can change a little bit and try to figure out what is going on. The front motors, well, if one is high and one is low, that means it's going one direction. If the other one is high, it's going the other direction. But if both are low, that means it's stopped. Now these, well, the left motor and the right motor are the only thing running. So this is probably turning. Now, to stop it, I put down here all of them back to low. Now this other part is another if statement, and I have an if-else statement. So this goes as long as the repeat is under 50 times. And the other one will go if the repeat is more than 50 times. And at the very end, let me get the camera down. I have the repeat go back to 0 so that it can all start over again. You should download this, well, not download, copy this and put it into your program so that you can see how this all works. Change some of the numbers and, well, just have a good time. Hope to see you next time. Alright, here's my car. Unfortunately, one of the tires went bad on me, but I'm going to try it anyway and give it some extra power. So I attach the negative side to the negative on here, and the positive side straight to that, well, L293 DNE chip. And it's going into the positive area on one of those. So let's see how this works. You ready? Let's see. Whoa.